Hey everyone, and a really warm welcome back to LexTalk podcast. This is season 5, episode 5.
Great to be back.
We're so glad you're tuning in. Today, we're diving deep into something huge in Thailand. Something I bet many of you listening, educators, parents, maybe you just love English, have seen firsthand.
Yeah, it's hard to miss.
We're talking about the massive growth of private English tutoring. It feels like it's everywhere now.
It really does. It's become such a significant part of the learning landscape.
Exactly. So our mission today is basically to figure out why. Why is this happening? What are the real upsides? And are there any downsides we need to consider?
And what's the bigger picture? The overall impact on English education across Thailand.
Right. So let's jump in. First off, this boom in private tutoring, what's driving it? Our sources suggest, well, a few key things. One big one seems to be this desire for more focused individual attention.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Think about the typical public school classroom here.
Right. They can be pretty big.
Exactly. And it's incredibly difficult, even for the best teachers, to give every single student that tailored support they might need.
So private tutoring steps in to offer that one-on-one time.
Precisely. It fills that gap, allows a tutor to really hone in on where a student is struggling or what they need to focus on.
Okay, and then there's the big one, exams.
Yes, the high-stakes tests.
IELTS, TOEFL, university entrance exams, scholarships, all that stuff. It feels like tutoring is almost seen as essential for these.
It often is, or at least perceived that way. There's enormous pressure tied to these exams in Thailand. They're real gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers to uni, to good jobs.
Absolutely. So you can understand why parents see tutoring as a vital investment. They want to give their kids every possible advantage.
You just have to look around Bangkok on a weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. Those English cram schools offering intensive IELTS prep, they're packed. It's practically an industry built around test success.
A whole industry. So, okay, beyond just getting through the tests, what makes private tutoring itself so appealing? Why choose it?
Well, we touched on personalization already. That's huge.
Being able to tailor the lessons.
Exactly. The tutors can adjust the pace, the actual content, even the teaching style to fit that specific learner. That's something you just can't easily replicate in a large class following a set curriculum.
Makes sense. And our sources really highlight the feedback aspect, too.
Ah, yes. The feedback loop.
In a one-on-one setting, students get really specific feedback, right? Especially on, speaking or writing.
That's incredibly valuable. Think about practicing speaking. In class, you might get a minute or two, maybe a quick comment.
If you're lucky.
Right. But with a tutor, you could spend a whole hour just talking, getting corrected, getting suggestions in real time.
We heard about students really improving their IELTS speaking scores this way.
I believe it. That targeted practice makes a massive difference.
And then there's the practical stuff, like scheduling.
Definitely. Tutors are often flexible evenings, weekends, holidays even. That's a lifesaver for busy families.
Juggling work and everything else. Plus, there's the draw of maybe getting a native speaker or someone highly qualified.
Yeah, that access to perceived expertise is a big factor for many parents. Someone who maybe isn't available through the regular school system.
Okay, so lots of perceived benefits. But we also need to look at the other side of the coin, the challenges, the potential downsides.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Because this boon isn't without its complications.
One of the biggest worries mentioned is equity, the fairness aspect.
Right. The risk of widening the gap between students who can afford this extra help and those who can't.
If good tutoring costs money, and it usually does, doesn't that create an uneven playing field?
It certainly can. It potentially advantages students from wealthier backgrounds regardless of their actual aptitude. It raises serious questions about equal opportunity.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Another concern is just the sheer amount of work for the students.
Oh, the workload, yes.
You've got regular school all day, maybe cram school in the evening, then private tutoring.
It can lead to incredibly long hours. We're talking potential burnout.
Our sources mention students feeling really overloaded.
And that's counterproductive, isn't it? If you're exhausted and stressed, how much are you really learning effectively? It impacts well-being, motivation, everything.
And linked to that workload, is there maybe too much focus just on the tests?
That's a very valid concern. Is the goal just passing the exam, or is it developing real communicative ability?
Being able to actually use English confidently.
Exactly. True proficiency is more than just test strategies. If tutoring becomes only about that test, we might be sacrificing that broader competence.
Okay, one more challenge that came up, regulation. Or, well, the lack of it.
Yes, the private tutoring sector isn't always consistently regulated.
So the quality can vary a lot.
Hugely. You can have fantastic tutors, and you can have, well, less qualified ones. Without clear standards or accreditation, it's hard for parents to know what they're paying for.
That lack of consistency is definitely an issue. So, all right, let's look ahead. What's next for private tutoring in Thailand? It feels like things are always changing.
They really are. One clear trend is blended learning.
Mixing online and in person.
Yeah. More flexibility, potentially more accessible, using online platforms alongside face-to-face sessions.
That fits with everything going digital.
Mhm.
And we're also seeing more specialized programs pop up.
Definitely. English for specific jobs, business, medicine, aviation's a big one here.
So tutoring tailored for professional needs, not just general English or exams.
Precisely. It reflects the demand in the economy for very specific language skills.
And hopefully maybe more affordable options too, like group tutoring.
That's certainly a possibility. Group sessions, maybe shorter online mini courses, things that could make quality tutoring accessible to more people, addressing that equity issue somewhat.
And what about that regulation point? Any movement there?
Well, there's ongoing discussion about whether some kind of national standards or accreditation for tutors might be needed to ensure quality and, build trust.
That would make sense. Oh, and one more trend. Our sources flagged parents using online platforms like Preply or italki.
Yes, booking sessions, often small group ones, with teachers based overseas.
Wow, so going global for tutoring.
It really shows how interconnected things are now. Accessing a wider pool of teachers, sometimes at different price points. Technology is really driving that.
So wrapping this up, it's clear private tutoring is a major player in English education in Thailand now.
Absolutely. It's filling gaps, offering tailored support.
Yeah.
But it's also changing the game in terms of access.
It presents real benefits for many, but also raises those important questions about equity and maybe the overall duration of learning.
It's complex, lots for educators, parents, policymakers to think about.
But ultimately, I guess whether it's public school, private tutoring, online, or a mix, the goal should be quality support for every single learner, right?
That's the ideal. Equitable opportunities for everyone to succeed with English.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive on private tutoring.
It went fast.
It did. Now, for our next deep dive, episode 6, we're staying on a related track. We'll be comparing English teaching methods, how things are done in public schools versus private schools across Thailand. Should be fascinating.
Looking forward to that comparison.
So definitely join us for that one. And hey, before you go, please do follow LexTalk. We're on our website, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, and Spotify.
Just search at LexTalk Podcast.
Yep. Keep the conversation going with us there. Thanks so much for listening today.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's talk. Let's learn. Let's LexTalk.